value acceleration minded organizations lead with purpose. And so as the owner, we have to find our personal purpose, and then we have to bestow that on other people. I have to help you find yours, and so on and so forth. So if you can get 50 people marching in the same direction with purpose, you're on the right track. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast with me, your host, Scott Snider. I am hanging out on our last episode of the year, Season 3. It's our recap episode with our special guest, I think back for the third time, right? We've done this 3 times over.
Yeah, this is our tradition now.
Our now Vice President of Marketing and Brand Strategy, Paige. So, Paige, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to continue our tradition together and do the recap episode together.
I know. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, perfect. So, similar format to the past 2 seasons, but we're going to go through some of our top clips from the year, from some of the best episodes that we've had. And I'll just ask you questions based on those episodes, get your thoughts, get your opinions, and we'll go from there.
Let's make it happen.
All right, perfect. So our first clip that we're going to start with is Neil McPeak and him telling his story about why he became a SEPA. So let's dive in, listen to the clip, and we'll go from there.
Cool.
Perfect.
I want to talk a little bit about you becoming a SEPA. You have a really cool and fascinating SEPA story. Can you tell it for our listeners?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can give you the big picture for sure.
Yeah, give me the big picture.
So a little bit about, if it's okay to go all the way back to the start. My dad started the business back in 1981, and he kind of started with retirees. And actually, he started in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and people were coming in with like cash. And so it's a far cry away now from where it was before.
Yeah.
But so we became really a retiree-focused, financial planning-focused firm.
Okay.
And we had a longtime client sell a business, and it was for a lot of money. I mean, kind of like a game-changing, once-in-a-lifetime amount of money. And we really thought we were in first position right from the start. You know, we had a good relationship with them, 20 years worth of experience with the client, helped them really build the company from scratch. And when the time came, we didn't get any of the sale. We got zero. And so we retained the existing assets, but zero of the sale.
Right.
So we took a step back. I was like, where did this money go? And part of it landed with SEPA. And we go, what is this? And why did we
always think this part of the story? You're just like, SEPA? What in the world?
That's what it was. Yeah, 100%. We said, what in the world? And then literally we had a conversation with the client, and it was like, well, they were talking about things that no one else was talking about. And a light bulb went off in our head. And we're like, man, never again. Like, we can never again be in that situation. So we have 6 advisors on our team now, and 4 of them have the SEPAs.
And they're pretty much business owner focused?
Business owner focused. So, and then the second thing that we did is we looked across our existing book of business and we tried to rank our top clients, not only from just assets, but from, from basically ease to work with and if do they follow our advice and things like that. And the top people were business owners. And like, why are we not focused on this demographic?
So in that clip, Neil kind of talks about his SEPA story and his journey into becoming a SEPA. And overall in the episode, he talks about being not for everybody, being an advisor for, your audience and not for everyone. So what kind of strikes you most about Neil's story and being a specialist, not a generalist?
Yeah, I thought when I first met Neil, obviously he had that's a pretty incredible story that he shared, right?
Yeah.
Where, and a Paige, a little self-serving, I guess, too, right? It's like a dream for me and Dad to have. I had 2 big experiences this year. One, I was closing on my new home, and as I exited the title company, the office next to us was a financial advisor, and she had her name on the door, and it said her name, SEPA, and I was like, wow, it's like on people's doors now. And when I met Neil had a similar story where he's, as you heard him talk about in the clip, he had lost business, and he had lost business to a SEPA. And what I like about Neil is Neil stays in his lane. Neil says, look, I am a expert financial advisor. I do investment management. But where he, I think, really aligns with business owners is he enters the conversation with a business owner saying, I'm a business owner specialist.
Yeah.
And so as a certified exit planning advisor, I know how I understand and can talk to you about how value is driven in your business and then how we can align business, personal, and financial goals. But my specialty within that process is financial advisory. So he almost has a couple of specialties, I think, when you think about it. One is his trade, which is his craft, his financial advisory, and then one is a certified exit planning advisor. So I was really drawn to Neil and Neil's story because I think he's doing something right.
Yeah.
And I think he's taken the credentialing program, the resources and benefits that he has at EPI to really change and shape his practice and really engage business owner clients. I thought that was a really cool story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think his story of not being for everybody, but being a specialist is really important and a good message to get out there.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many people, I guess, try to cast such a wide net or try to be everything to everybody?
That's a really good question. I think I guess maybe two answers. My knee-jerk kind of reaction is I think people don't like to see business walk out the door.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think it's really hard.
Yeah.
I think what we need to get actually used to in our profession of exit planning is that there's quite literally millions of business owners. So if one walks in the door, the next one's walking in. And I'd rather serve a client that I know and know well and know that I can serve than one that I'm going to struggle with. And so I think people cast a wide net because they don't want the business owner walking out the door. They're like, yeah, never mind. Like we could totally do this. And then it just doesn't work out. And so, I think that's probably why people don't like owning a business myself, Paige, it's hard to see revenue walk out of the door.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I think it's also hard, to be my opinion and perspective, it's hard for people also to find that specialty. Like you have to do some
That's fair.
deeper analysis on what you are best at and what you enjoy doing and like what your specialty should be. So I think sometimes it also takes some reflection to find that specialty.
I think that's even a better point where you have somebody like Justin Goodbread who's on our board and our SEPA faculty. He talks about like frazzled Frank, right? When he goes to teach, right?
Yes.
And he goes, my frazzled Frank, which is his, little fun name for his buyer persona, looks like X, Y, and Z, acts like X, Y, and Z. But to your point, he's done some deep work to figure out
exactly
who he works with. I don't think most businesses aren't getting that, frankly, deliberate in what they're doing.
For sure. I think it's easy to say like, oh, I don't want to see the business walk out the door, but people aren't necessarily always willing to do the deeper work of, well, who am I and what should I be doing? Like, how do I serve clients best?
Yeah, I think, if you rewind, I don't know, it's probably been, 2022 maybe when we brought our exit planning summit back. We had a fireside chat on the main stage with my dad and a gentleman named Andy Rayburn, who, for our SEPAs listening to the podcast, would know as the perfect exit inside of the Walking to Destiny book. And when you talk about knowing your buyer persona, it also allows you to know who you like working with, who you don't like working with. And it doesn't make it bad or good. It just makes it right for you. And on that stage, when he was talking about his journey in building Flexalloy, he got really good at defining that buyer persona, defining his specialty, defining who he wanted to work with, to the point where he actually went back into his client book and started firing his own clients and saying, look, this isn't a profitable relationship or this isn't a working relationship. And I think we know that from transformational leadership training with Fred Johnson at Initiative One, right? These 8, 9s, and 10s that don't necessarily make them bad people out in the world. It just doesn't make it a fit for your business. But I think it's an activity, whether it's a lesson from Neil, it's a lesson from you, and what you just took, Andy Rayburn from Flexalloy and the Perfect Exit, or even Justin Goodbread. I don't think people do that deeper work to truly define. But I think you're onto something, because it's really not just defining it. It's actually leading with it and saying, this is right for me, this is not right for me, and here's why.
Exactly.
But yeah, Neil certainly has embraced that.
And I guess in these episodes, I do like to give the audience a bit like of a deeper dive or a
Yeah.
peek behind the curtain of EPI.
Sure. Yeah.
So do you feel like we've ever had a moment here at EPI, or how have we evolved maybe to find our specialty, and we're not right for everybody. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's like the upfront answer and then maybe the peek behind the curtain
Yeah,
answer, if that's what
exactly.
you're trying to dig out of me. I would say, one, I think we have gotten, and obviously you're in charge of marketing, and part of marketing is defining who we like to work with, right? And who's right for us, and taking the services and offerings and the core values that hang behind us on the wall, who fits that mold for us, who we like working with. So I think we've done over the years a better job of identifying and attracting those that we like.
Exactly.
So I think we actually have a lot more folks in our community coming in 2025 that really fit what we collectively all believe in. But I don't know, and there might be a somebody listening to the podcast now that I've fired out of our membership, right? Where, and to be plain, where it's like, look, it's just not working, and it's not working because you're bad or I'm bad. It's not working because we're just not aligned. We're either not aligned on core values, we're not aligned on outlook, or frankly, I think what I've been more in tune to in my business career is it's business, so it has to drive a return on investment. And if you're a SEPA and it's not driving you a return, and I think the ultimate return for us as SEPAs is accessing and gaining and influencing more business owner clients. And if your SEPA isn't doing that for you, it's probably not right for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think we've got better at identifying those relationships, and it's kind of like a relief moment, really, where you look at somebody and be like, hey, man, I've been a member for 3 years, and I really like you guys, but for whatever reason, it's not working, and we've have parted ways. So I think I think internally in our business, gotten more focused on what works for everybody, meaning us and the member, us and the client.
Absolutely. And I think it's helped us evolve the community even further because
Yeah.
there are
Sure.
like SEPA champions in the community now, where we're attracting more of those people, or people who want to also help us evolve, want to help us find our specialty. I feel like it's been really helpful to lean into that more.
Sure, surely.
Perfect.
Cool.
Well, let's move on to our
All
next
right.
episode. Our next episode is the Life After the Exit episode with Scott Kokenauer. So let's listen in, and we'll be back.
It's like you would be growing value in your business. You're actually aligning your personal life as well. Can you talk through the way you think through personal planning?
Yeah, the elements of strategic planning, which all business owners understand, their purpose, your vision, their mission, strategic initiatives.
Yeah.
We just take those elements and apply it personally.
Yeah.
And the 6 strategic initiatives is kind of the framework. I have my clients ask 3 questions. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? And what do you want to have? And ask those for all 6 hallmarks. I call it hallmarks of a fantastic fourth quarter. Spiritually anchored, physically fit, relationally rich, emotionally healthy, vocationally aligned, and financially free. So these are 6 perspectives. You walk around your life and say, who do I want to be spiritually? Who do I want to be physically? And I pull a little bit from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, where you adopt the identity of who you want to be and then prove it to yourself, as opposed to waiting until some future date. I'm going to be that person a year from now if I follow this. I promote the idea of saying, wake up in the morning and say, what would a spiritually anchored person do in this situation? What would a physically fit person do? What would a vocationally aligned person do? And so you actually we work heavy on the front end defining what that means.
Okay, so that was a clip from Scott Kokenauer's episode where he talks a lot about personal planning and it not just being an add-on. It's really at the center of your life.
No doubt.
So I guess, why do you think personal planning may be kind of an underdeveloped area?
Yeah, it's kind of
what
like
we
the theme of
teach.
the year, I think, right?
Exactly.
I think it's been heavily influenced by the next 2 generations that are coming up in, let's say, business ownership. They're certainly active business owners, but as people, as a community of advisors serving business owners, we obviously are working more immediately with the baby boomers, but I think Gen Xers and millennials are certainly next up and more in tune
Absolutely.
to personal planning than ever before. So this is why I think it's kind of been a a theme throughout. Why it's your question was what? Why it's kind of the overlooked leg, if you will.
Overlooked, underdeveloped.
Yeah. Well, I was just actually having this conversation today. I think that it's underdeveloped because it's harder to measure. And so I think it's really easy for us as professional advisors and for business owners to say, look, I could take where we even teach inside of our SEPA programs that in essence, value of a business is some form of cash times some form of multiple equals value. Mm-hmm. And we can manage all that. We can measure and then manage all of those numbers through things like readiness and attractiveness assessments, range of value, multiples, benchmarking data, all that good stuff. From a personal financial standpoint, there's all kinds of different personal financial assessments that we can be doing in investment analysis. But when you come to personal planning, I think it's kind of hard because kind of like Scott was talking about in his clip, you need to take Scott's hallmarks that he talked about and then be able to put hard numbers to them and then show a return on investment. So if I am going to work on these hallmarks that Scott talks about, well, where's my life in 90 days? Where's my life in a year? And where's my life in 3 years? So I just think it's undermeasured and underdeveloped because there's not enough tools and specialties supporting it in the same way that I think you have valuators, CPAs, attorneys, estate planners, financial advisors, and the tools and systems and assessments that support their work. You don't have that yet in the personal world. I mean, there are probably 3 to 5 big names in the EPI world, Scott included, that pop up when you think about active personal planners in EPI. Mm-hmm. But when you think about active financial advisors in EPI, there's like 55 to 60% of the whole exit planning community. So I think what I was saying today in an article that we were writing is it reminds me of the start of our profession, where people like Peter Chrisman and Rich Jackham, the founders of EPI, or the next people that kind of took the torch and ran with it, people like my dad, Chris Snider, or even like a Sean Hutchinson, these early pioneers of what we were doing, a Gordon Bell, a Mark Kravitz, right? These types of people. It was a little perhaps easier for them to run with it because we have a basis of accounting, we have a basics of law and legal and the way we operate. We don't necessarily have a base yet of personal planning. So I find it to be overlooked because I think it's hard to talk about. But I think it's also overlooked because I think it's hard to measure. And obviously we talk about a lot in EPI, what gets measured gets managed. Mm-hmm. And so if we can't measure it, then it's probably not going to get managed.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Fair. I'm kind of reflecting on what you said. And I think generationally it's very different as well. Mm-hmm. I think even talking to you and Chris, it's very different about your personal plans.
Sure.
Like I think baby boomers and other older generations, it can be very personal, whereas with younger generations, it is almost they're more willing to lean into it a bit.
Yeah. You're going to take a lot of crap from the baby boomers listening to them.
I know.
As like one of the youngest people on our team, I feel is starting to critique the older generations. But I think but I also think it's funny because I think different generations are more sensitive to stuff than others. Right? So I say it to our audience who's listening is just a point of maybe laughter and an icebreaker.
I don't think it's a negative thing.
No, I don't think it's at all a negative thing. I think that it's just how you were raised.
Absolutely.
So, like, if you take my dad, who tends to absolutely be more private, and I'm more open, and I think if you were having us both sitting here in the same chairs, Dad is probably a little like right of center when it comes to if super private is all the way to the right, he's probably like a little right of center.
Yeah.
And I'm probably left of center effect or way left where you're like, I can't believe he just said that.
Absolutely.
And I'm just like, well, I'm just sharing stuff about my life because frankly, maybe it broke the ice a little bit because you actually had a similar situation. You just were uncomfortable sharing it because it's not what you typically do in this setting, right?
Yeah.
So point being is the question really, you peel the layer back of the onion and go, well, why is Dad as private as he is? Well, if you think Dad is private, you should have seen his dad.
I'm sure,
and
absolutely.
His mother, right? The traditionalist generation where everything was prim and proper, everything was wildly more conservative, and it was definitely a generation where you left personal at the door, right? Mm-hmm. Like when Grandpa Snider went into the law firm or then went into the bank, it wasn't personal anymore. He was there in a suit and tie to do business. Mm-hmm. And then he came home and he was father and husband. And so it was just a wildly more, I think, private generation, but they also could be because they didn't have like social media and they didn't have all these other influences in their life where I could probably, if I haven't talked to you for a week, I could probably jump on your Instagram and figure out what you were doing, right? Like we're never not all that tied to each other. But back then, when Grandpa was serving in World War II, like Grandma had no friggin' idea what he was doing for like a year, right?
Yeah.
So point being is now we have as people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, we have more access to information all around us. So our life just generally becomes more public. So for me, it's like, well, if I'm not going to tell you, you're probably going to go see it somewhere or hear about it, or there's a game of telephone that's going to be played that's going to come back around because we have everything right at our fingertips. And now everything's a little bit, it's a little less privatized and a lot more publicized. And so, yeah, I think relating it all the way back to Scott's clip and personal planning, I think that's why you see younger generations more open to sharing their personal strategies because life has just gotten more personal and public.
Do you think it's also because they maybe learned from like owners who have exited previously, like boomer owners or traditionalist owners, and seeing that? I know that was a huge factor in why Pete and Rich kind of started this journey.
Yeah, I think that going back to the access to information, in our world today, we do have the benefit as younger entrepreneurs and owners to model people that have come model for better or worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
What people have done before us, and so that's why I'm so fascinated even by the millennial generation because they just have so much more access to information. Is that this is why if you look at our State of Readiness survey, why I think millennials are actually more interested in exit planning because they've kind of grown up with it.
Yeah.
Because it's at their fingertips. There's more podcasts like this. There's books. There's ebooks. There's white papers. They're teaching it in schools now, right? It's just so all around us. But yeah, I go back to it's more publicized than ever before. So younger generations can learn it earlier on and model different types of behavior.
Perfect. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for diving into that with
Thanks.
me. I think we have to move on to our next clip
Let's
now.
do it. Yeah.
Perfect. Our next clip that we have is with Scott Bushke. It's our Drive Value Special episode, and it's going to be about lessons from 25 years in M&A.
Awesome. So you got the book, the experience, and now the team. Can you talk to me about how a non-M&A advisor, somebody in the CPI community, how they work with you?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So what we've done and what we set out with our process, our Assurance 360 process we've developed over 25 years in the trenches is we want to help them start the conversation because what we found is that most business owners, when they want to exit, sell, whatever it is, it's not a proactive initiative, and the business is peaking and everything's great and they planned it perfectly. It's usually a personal decision and it's not fun anymore. I'm tired. I'm burnt out. There's a health scare. And I got to get out of this thing. And the company's still doing well, but it won't be doing well for long. And so there's a short window. So what we're trying to do is help the business or help the trusted advisor, the financial advisor, the CPA, the CPA, whoever it might be, start the conversation earlier with the client. So we've got a couple of one-pager assessments that they can either ask the questions or have the client fill out. It takes about 1 minute to 2 minutes. And because that's what we found. And that's why I wrote the book and the workbook as well, because so many CPAs and financial advisors just don't know how to start that conversation. And unfortunately, the business owner is not going to come to them and go, hey, I've done all this research or I'm thinking about selling my business. It just doesn't happen. They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
They want to keep it confidential. They don't want anybody to find out they're thinking about maybe selling the company or exiting.
That's a big deal.
So it's a big, big deal. So by helping them start the conversation, and then if they do have some interest or they want to answer some questions, we'll have a discovery call, talk about the different pros and cons of exit options. They'll usually have questions like, how long does it take? What's going on in my marketplace? We'll answer any questions they have, usually a 60, 90-minute kind of discovery call. And then from there, a lot of times it'll move into a fair market analysis.
Okay, so in this clip, Scott kind of talks about how people can engage with him, but also I think something that we talk about at Exit Planning Institute a lot of, exits don't always happen at the perfect time.
Yeah.
They're usually triggered by something else that comes up. So what can advisors learn from that?
Well, I think it's if you're implementing the value acceleration methodology, one One of the things I think that really happens that we don't spend enough time on at EPI is the fact that I think a lot of people think exit planning is a one bite of the apple scenario, but with proper planning, the owner gains options.
Yeah.
And so I think what folks can take from what Scott's talking about here is that, one, there's certainly the 5 Ds that we all know as certified exit planning advisors. There's these involuntary exits, but we're not necessarily always, even if it's not a 5D involuntary exit moment, I think that many owners will have opportunities that come up, and you might not be on your ideal exit time frame, but might have an opportunity to exit when it's technically ideal for you, right?
Yeah.
And so I think Scott's really truly talking about having options and always being ready to exit by properly planning. What I think you hear from him at the get-go of what he's talking about in his 360 process is, the other thing that I think people miss is whether you're selling internally to your employees, management, or family, or you're selling externally and using somebody like Scott to do it, you should always bring in an M&A advisor like Scott, an investment banker, because they're going to look at your business truly from the outside in. And so he talks in the start of that clip about how he can work with certified exit planning advisors early in the process, not late. So I think there's multiple nice, actually, mini lessons from Scott right in that short clip.
Yeah. And something Scott mentions is that selling your business is emotional work.
Yeah.
Do you think advisors are equipped or trained enough to help with that process?
I think if they're certified exit planning advisors, they are. Honestly, I mean, not to toot the old horn here in the EPI community, but I think that's a part of the training in all reality, is that when you come to the 25 or 30 hours of your credentialing experience and then you immerse yourself in the EPI community, I'd like to think that when a SEPA shows up, they understand how to drive value into a company. The SEPA understands how to align business, personal, and financial goals. They understand how to collaborate amongst team members. And they also understand that this is more than just a business. It's, for many people, their baby. And even if you've only owned it, like me, for maybe 12 years, we have dedicated a portion of our lives, and in some cases our entire life, towards that business. So I think SEPAs are particularly trained in part to understand that importance of this particular moment in their life. But yeah, I would say that it's absolutely an emotional journey.
Absolutely. So this was our Drive Value special episode. So I think this is time to talk a little bit about drivevalue.com.
Sure. Well, I wore the pullover today. Is that why you told me not to take it off? Huh?
Absolutely. I thought we would plug that there.
Cool.
But no, so this year we launched drivevalue.com, and I think that has been energizing for the whole team. How has that maybe helped energize you in this next phase of EPI, or aligned with EPI's purpose?
Yeah, so this year we celebrated 20 years of the Exit Planning Institute. And a couple of years ago at our executive retreat, we started to investigate the question of, well, what does the end user, what do business owners think about what we do at Exit Planning Institute, right? We help build significant companies today primarily through bringing a highly educated and well-rounded team of advisors to the business owner that help them down this journey. Now, this year when we started to launch Drive Value, or when we launched drivevalue.com, we decided that we needed a central hub of information around value acceleration that would speak to the owner and folks around the owner, so what I call business leaders. So to use a live example, I'm the owner and president of EPI, and Paige is a vice president here, and one of our nearest and dearest advisors to me and my dad, Chris. So it would a drivevalue.com central hub would influence me, but influence her. So I think that we found that folks like Paige, or the next generation family business owner, when you influence the next generation, somebody like Paige is actually coming to me and saying, Scott, have you heard about this kind of stuff? Maybe we should think about doing it. So we created drivevalue.com to begin to educate business owners directly. But honestly, it's my certified exit planning advisor commercial. I want owners to know that we have a SEPA community that is out there and exists to help you drive value in your company and align business, personal, and financial goals. And somebody like Scott was one of our first partners that kind of jumped into that campaign and said, I want to be a part of it. I want to teach. I want to speak, and I want to help fund that campaign.
Yeah.
To move a whole industry forward. So for me, Paige, it's been really cool.
Yeah.
And then I've always said I'm owner first. So it's been a really cool journey this year to actually be, whether it was at our NASCAR event or whether it was at one of our Dry Value regional summits in our chapter cities. It's been really cool to actually be able to get out there and speak to business owners directly, because most of our work, if not all of our work, is typically with the professional advisor.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it speaks directly to our purpose.
Absolutely.
Which also hangs right up on the wall. So it was, I think, a great experience, and it's kind of like that next phase of EPI, or that next era.
Absolutely.
Exit planning is strategic planning. That's why 90 partnered with the Exit Planning Institute to help leaders build organizations that are ready for anything, including a successful transition. Take Josh Anderson from Acuity Technologies. In 2021, his team started running on EOS powered by 90. They focused on clarity, accountability, and execution. Earlier this year, they exited, joining forces with Decision Point Technologies. For Josh, this wasn't luck. It was the result of doing the work, staying disciplined, and using the right tools to drive outcomes. Ready for your successful exit story? Join us at 90.io Exit Planning to learn more.
Are you a business owner seeking to unlock the true potential of your enterprise? Look no further than the second edition of Christopher Snider's revolutionary book, Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. In this updated edition, Snider presents proven strategies for maximizing your company's value and accelerating growth. Whether you're aiming to sell or simply want to ensure long-term success, this book offers a blueprint for building a thriving, self-sustaining business. Walking to Destiny isn't just another book, it's a game changer, backed by Snider's own experience as a successful business owner and as a SEPA. This book bridges the gap between business owners and advisors, guiding you towards financial freedom. But don't just take our word for it. Hear from those whose lives have been transformed by its insights. One satisfied reader raves, "The best guide for transitioning out of privately owned companies. I recommend it to all business owners and advisors." Another praises it on its focus for maximizing business value, calling it their, quote, principal tool for educating owners. Ready to take control of your business's destiny? Visit walkingtodestiny.com now and use code EXITISNOW to claim your free copy of Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect by seizing this opportunity today.
Perfect. Okay, let's move on to our next clip
Cool,
we
let's do
have.
it.
Our next clip is going to be with Amy Wirtz, who is our 2024 Exit Planner of the Year. And she's just talking about industry trends and statistics with you.
All
So
right,
let's
cool.
listen in and we'll dive back.
Do you think so? If I go and take EPI into the owner world and do that high level education with the intent to say I'm going to marry highly educated owners with highly educated advisors, then together you guys are going to go out and do that work. Is that intimidating for our SEPAs though? Because now
I
they're
do.
like,
I do
Scott,
think it's
you're
intimidating.
competing with us.
I do think there's a fine line. I think that if we can show our SEPA community that this introduction to our processes creates a movement that creates work for us as SEPAs, that you're not replacing it, that's the sweet spot.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you,
Good advice.
I was very involved in the Owner Roundtable program.
Right. Yeah.
And that Owner Roundtable program changed my ability to do my work. I was in the design of it with you guys. I was in training and the peer group work. And I really believe that process can be helped with a little bit of the beautiful education programs that you create online for SEPAs. Right. If you can have an intro to why we would need to learn about value acceleration methodology for owners, professionally done in sound studio, that drives the awareness of what a SEPA is and gets it to, you need a SEPA on your value acceleration methodology in order for it to work well. And that drives the work.
Yeah.
And here's this big ass community that we have.
Yeah.
Here's our website. This is where they all are. Call them up and use them.
Yeah.
Then I think that's a synergistic business proposal that only supports the SEPA community.
Okay, perfect. So after that clip with Amy, she kind of talks about her vision for including next generation and leaders through, management and governance. So how are you thinking about this with your own team?
I mean, this is a great conversation. This is Amy's specialty, right? It's our family governance, but I think it goes actually a lot deeper than that, right?
Yeah.
She's also somebody that uses the value acceleration methodology as a intergenerational educational tool.
Mm-hmm.
And I would answer your question that way, that I think that what I always hope when I sit on this podcast or I speak on a stage, that the folks that are listening that are certified exit planning advisors can look internal at their own organization that they're a part of and say, is this privately held business that is EPI living the value acceleration methodology? And I do believe that we use the value acceleration methodology as an intergenerational education tool for folks that are on our executive team, leadership team, and really across the entire organization. So I think it's really cool. I think it allows them to begin to think more like owners. It allows them to understand value, and I think by understanding both, they take their jobs. They take their jobs differently. I don't think EPI is a place where you show up 8 to 5, but we also deliberately plan and practice. Right? We have Chase, who's our director of operations, sitting up here on a Monday morning going through value acceleration terminology. And if you're a newer SEPA, it's a part of the new SEPA prep box that we debuted at the beginning of this year, where you're getting actually a 54 deck of cards with the 54 key terms of value acceleration. So we're practicing that internally. So whether you're a office assistant on the operations team or you're the vice president of marketing and anywhere in between, we're all consistently learning value acceleration.
I think that's a great point. And I think we talk about owners decentralizing a lot, as well as the mindset shifts an owner needs to have.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the mindset shifts the executive or leadership team or even individuals in the company need to have?
So, and this is going to be a long one, so you just cut me off whenever you want.
Perfect.
But I'm pretty passionate about this. I think that everything starts with purpose. And so I think we're a purpose-driven organization, whether it's the purpose that hangs behind me on the wall here during our show, or it's my personal purpose or your personal purpose. I think value acceleration-minded organizations lead with purpose. And so as the owner, we have to find our personal purpose, and then we have to bestow that on other people. I have to help you find yours, and so on and so forth. So if you can get 50 people marching in the same direction with purpose, you're on the right track. Then I think the organization needs to adopt some type of formula that allows them to have a really good rhythm, how the way you communicate and jive on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis. I think you need to be performance driven. So we have to be constantly looking at our scorecards, KPIs, and reflecting and evolving. I think that you need to have a short-term and long-term vision. And I think you need to have a mentality. And for us, the mentality would be the value acceleration methodology. You have to know that the stuff that you're doing doesn't just drive leads, doesn't just drive new sales, doesn't just reduce costs, doesn't just manage a facility, doesn't reduce risk. All of it ties to short-term wins and then long-term value. And I think the last thing that you have to wrap around it is personal purpose. Is that the last thing you have to wrap around it is a purposeful growth mentality that says you've never really arrived. You're always investigating your purpose and evolving it. You're going through those 4 elements that I talked to, and you're always kind of critiquing and evolving it. And I think it all brings it back to a value creation mindset or a value acceleration mindset for the employees around you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think as you move to kind of decentralize and we take on a bit more on the executive team level and all the way down, there's definitely been a lot of lessons and a lot that we've gotten right and I think also gotten wrong. And I think it takes a little from both ends.
Well, I think any owner needs to be ready for that, right? Any change is difficult, and when you're changing from a income generation mentality to a value creation mentality, there will be some fumbles. And so, when people ask me about this kind of element, I would suggest that you start line item budgeting for it. It's going to make it a hell of a lot easier for you as an owner when you lose $20,000 to say, "Oh man, now we got to make it up somewhere," but you don't, because there's always a little 1% of revenue fund in there for transformation, for evolution, for value creation, where you go, I know if I'm going to start decentralizing myself and Paige is going to start taking on more stuff, that there will be some fumbles along the way, and some of those fumbles will cost money. but I'm going to actually start budgeting for it. I think it just
Definitely.
makes it a hell of a lot easier.
Definitely. Okay, so on the exit planner of the year front, so
Sure.
people like Amy as our exit plan of the year and a recognized thought leader in the SEPA community, what role do you think people like Amy and other SEPAs play in helping us move the methodology forward?
Well, I think they become ambassadors. So, for example, Amy was our, like you said, the 2024 exit planner of the year. And then from that, she's always been a longtime faculty member and a longtime SEPA. But from that, she has now joined and is chairing our Thought Leadership Council. So the Thought Leadership Council at EPI is 6 SEPAs that are kind of, I would say, are stewards of the methodology. So as you see somebody like Chris, who's the founder of and creator of the methodology and the author of the Walking to Destiny book, they become, I think, ambassadors and stewards of that process methodology in the community, recognizing one SEPA a year to say, look, you out of 8 or 9 or 10,000 certified exit planning advisors, you're number one this year. You become that, where people look to you for best practices. People look to you as a representative of the community. And I think it's a really cool moment because somebody like Amy has really, and then I would say, I think it was Joe Strazzeri that might have been right before her.
Yeah, he was.
And you look to those last couple of classes of award winners as people that you can model and do things right. And I think it really showcases the community and takes it really less than or away from the Chris and Scott Snider show, or Chris Snider, the author of Walking to Destiny.
Exactly.
To, not what Chris is doing, but what are folks like Joe or Justin or Amy doing, and how can I model and further that in my practice?
Well, yeah, they're the actual practitioners. They're
No
the ones
doubt.
out in the field. They're the
No
ones having the experiences. So definitely the ones that we want to model.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Well, on the community note, our next clip is with Rick Krebs, who's our 2025 Member of the Year. So let's watch that and
Cool.
tune back in.
One other thing I want to share
Yeah.
with you is I was really excited about this. We had, I call it a reverse Shark Tank. It's Exit Planning Live. And
Okay.
what we do there is we've done one and we're going to do a second. We'll have more of these meetings next year. I struggled because I wanted to bring business owners to the event and I wanted them to be incognito so we could plan their exit. We're in the discovery gate. We have them fill out a questionnaire. What are where are you at? What are your questions? And I thought, well, I can put them up in the front with a bag over their head and we won't know who they are. And that didn't
Exactly.
sound good.
Yeah,
or
no,
like
seems
the old
terrible.
dating game where there's behind a wall, right? Contestant number
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
But what we did is we did a Zoom call. So they called in over Zoom and they'd filled out a questionnaire ahead of time about their business, their age, what their goals are, gas in their tank, their energy, and their biggest questions in their mind. And then we took the SEPAs in the room and the attendees, and we devised an exit plan for them. We took 2 paths. One is build, and one is sell. If you're going to go down the sell path, this is what you do. If you're going to build, these are the next step that you take. Have you done a business valuation? Have you calculated your wealth gap? Have you done a personal financial plan? What is your profit and value gaps? And at the end of that, they had a plan, and we wrote it on a board. Those business owners went away with such value from that meeting. In fact, I should share the comments. They just loved that meeting. They're like, Rick, you guys solidified what I knew. And some of the comments weren't so nice because we weren't in person.
Right.
A couple of the guys are
Right.
like, your baby's ugly. That thing, it wouldn't sell.
Oh, man.
And it's like, ooh, that was a little hard to hear, but it's what they needed to hear.
Okay, perfect. So that was Rick talking about, his approach to community building, how educating owners differently, just educating overall. So what's your biggest takeaway from Rick's approach to educating through experience?
Well, what I love about Rick is that he's wildly engaging and interactive.
He
He's
is.
actually a natural teacher and educator too. So when you talk to that and when you look at that clip, I think one of the reasons that he won Member of the Year this year is that a lot of the times the Member of the Year award goes to our chapter network, right? We have 35 chapters, give or take, across the United States. And so therefore 35 chapter presidents that all have this kind of servant leadership kind of mentality as well,
Yes.
that certainly want to give back and make their community better. What you're seeing in Rick is that he's like a case study example kind of guy, right?
Yes.
He's not a guy that wants you to just sit there and listen to some speaker at the front of the room, and that's frankly probably too normal for him. He wants to be able to, in his case, he's going to have them call in the Zoom call, and then we're all going to start critiquing it. But what I love about it is he's been wildly successful at, let's call it alternative styles of learning.
Yeah.
That go well beyond just the educational component and dive into the application of it. And I always say why I frankly pressure the chapter so much to do case study style sessions is because me and you can sit together and have your typical networking conversation where I'm like, man, I really like Paige, and she's an M&A person, and I might bring her into engagement. It'd be a hell of a lot different for me if I was sitting in the Utah chapter and we heard an owner call in and give some information, and then you as the M&A advisor are now providing real-time advice on how you would look at this scenario. And that just gets it allows me to know you on a much deeper level in the way that you think. So I think this kind of the experiences and the education that he's doing inside of the Utah chapter, I think are quite interesting and inspiring. Maybe a little bit different and unique.
Absolutely.
But nevertheless, I think it's one of the reasons that he's Member of the Year, and Utah's one of the best chapters.
Absolutely. Yeah, Utah is always talked about. It's always up there in one of our best chapters.
Yeah.
It's a huge community. They're always doing something different, like you said.
are.
So on that note about Rick, what do you think it means to be a best-in-class advisor, not just in 2025, but 2026 and going forward? How has that evolved from
Absolutely.
when we originally talked about this?
Yeah, for me, it really falls into the three elements, which I think Rick, frankly, embraces quite real, and it's quite realistic for him. He has totally changed his approach and has adopted a value acceleration framework and mindset when he's talking with business owners. You can hear it in his clip, and if anybody knows Rick, you could hear him talk about it. Two, one of the reasons he loves the chapter so much, and one of the best-in-class elements of a SEPA and the advisor of the future, if you will, is he's become an excellent collaborator, and he's an excellent community builder. He realizes that there's a robust ecosystem for exit planning and that you need a ton of people to do it. He stays in his lane of M&A work, and he surrounds himself with different advisors along the way that meet his clients' needs so he can truly act in that trusted and valued advisor. He values a relationship and not a transaction. And then third, and you see it inside of his chapter and inside of this clip, he's a purposeful growth mindset kind of guy. He enjoys running the chapter because, in fact, he enjoys learning.
Yeah.
And so I think he gets as much out of the chapter as perhaps other people do because he loves alternate styles or alternative styles of learning that allow him to expand his mindset and grow. So for me, a best-in-class SEPA, somebody like Rick, or somebody that's listening that wants to be a best-in-class SEPA, we have to be able to embrace value acceleration and make it a part of who we are. We have to be able to connect and collaborate with people. And we've never arrived. We always have to continuously evolve because as more business owners adopt the value acceleration methodology, the more we learn and the more we evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first lessons I ever learned about SEPA and exit planning overall in our community was something Vincent Mastrovito said, was that ships rise together. Like
Absolutely.
I was asking him about collaboration and I guess the team approach, and he will never forget that ships rise together. And I think Rick kind of embodies that approach of
100%.
collaboration over competition. So I think, how has that evolved over the years?
I think many advisors today are in tune that there's so much opportunity. Even if we all collectively went in together, there's still going to be more, right? So
Absolutely.
It kind of rounds out to what we were talking about at the top of the show, though, Paige, because he's also a guy that knows his lane.
Absolutely.
So he knows the client that he serves, and he's willing to actually refer work out to other M&A people because he's like, look, this doesn't fit me either for industry, revenue size, value size. I'm not going to be right for that particular deal. So when you go into somebody like Rick's chapter, he has his own competitors just sitting around the room as if it was like super normal, and because it is.
Yeah.
Because he is a guy that it's not a scarcity mindset at all. He's saying, look, there's going to be millions of business owners that are coming to market here in the next 5 years. And Rick would say, if we do this right, there's going to be millions more.
Exactly.
And so he'd rather stay in his lane, know his client, and serve them well versus be everything to everybody. And so, he has totally embraced that mindset that I think Vincent talked to you about years ago.
Perfect. Well, our last clip is actually not from this year at all. It's going to be our top viewed clip.
Ever?
Yeah, ever.
3 seasons?
From our 3
75
seasons.
episodes, something like that?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
actually back to our 2nd episode, I believe, and it's the one with Justin Goodbread and Sean Hutchinson about the
course.
evolution of exit planning.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. So let's watch that clip together,
Cool.
and then we'll be right back.
All right. Sean, what do you think? Success with significance. What's that mean for you?
Yeah, I'd say 3 things. So one of the things that I said years ago is we have to get away from the idea that exit planning is a purely transactional process. It actually is transformational, right? So to a certain extent, when you talk about the gap between where you are and where you need to be financially, emotionally, whatever it might be, the journey from one point to another is actually going to change your life. Right, that's going to feel different to people. It's going to be not just a financial context. It's going to be something that they haven't actually felt before. The process is also meant to unstick people. My feeling is that a lot of owners who have gotten to the point where they can actually think about this is an investment, not just a source of income, so they begin to change the conversation using different words. Just that change in vocabulary is a really interesting pivot to see them go through, right? So you're talking about, you do the same thing, right? Success to significance. Just saying it out loud is powerful.
Yeah, I think
that gets people really, changing the context. When we talk about exit planning as business strategy, we're actually setting context for decision making, right? So business strategy is all about setting up scenarios and starting to make decisions about what kind of pathway you're going to choose, right? If you can't make good decisions quickly, then your business is going to suffer and the process is going to suffer. So at the end of the day, exit planning for me is all about setting a context for decision making, finding a different vocabulary, and also learning how to address what we call missing conversations. There are probably 100 missing conversations at any given time when you start this process. Part of it is to expose those and have them. That's important. That's how transformation happens.
Okay, so bringing it back from here, Sean says that exit planning is transformational, not transactional.
Yeah.
And 3 seasons later, how do you see that showing up in what we do today?
I think what he said is, I think even more apparent in the work that we do today. It's the reason why we started DriveValue.com, and we talked about that on this show, right? We want to get to the owners because we're seeing it now more than ever. If this was season, I guess, what season was this? What's season 1?
This is season 1.
So this is season 1, episode 2.
Yeah.
So this was before we even released the next state of owner readiness survey then.
Yes.
And I think you're seeing it there. And so I would tie Sean's comments to the results of the National State of Owner Readiness Survey, where we saw that education works, building a relationship with business owners works, asking the right questions work, and educating the owner along the way work, because it creates a transformation for them where they're wildly more educated and prepared than they ever were before. Not to say that they are full on ready to go exit their companies. I think there's some work to be done, but nonetheless, it's an absolute transformational experience, and it's been so. And I think in our own journey here at EPI.
Yeah, this is still, I think, new of when we were talking about success to significance. That was kind of a new phrase or new purpose that we really talked about. Creating significant companies wasn't always our purpose, or maybe it was, but it wasn't defined like that then. So how maybe has that phrase taken hold or snowballed even more in a meaningful way?
I think I've used it in every single presentation that I've done in 2025. And I think some of the other folks that go out and speak on EPI's behalf, we've all started that way.
Yeah.
We've hung it now on the wall in our brand new office, which also came about this at the beginning of this year. And so I just think we live it more than ever before. And you kind of alluded to it. It used to be called change the outcome. We wanted to go out and change the outcome for business owners. And I challenged us to say, well, what does that really mean, right?
Yeah.
Can we put a little bit more meat to that? And what it means is to create a significant company. It's a transformational experience. It's an experience that takes you from a successful year-over-year company to a company that's highly valuable, ready and attractive, that's aligned to your business, personal, and financial goals. And so how's it changed and shaped us over the years? It hangs on the wall behind us. It's in every single presentation that we give. And it's the point in my presentation, although it's straight out of the gate. Like, here's my introduction, and let's start with revisiting purpose. It's the one slide that everybody takes their phones out to capture, and so they're all taking a picture of it. So I think that you're seeing it in the market more so than ever, and I think you're seeing it lived more so than ever.
Absolutely. And how do you think the SEPA community has embraced that and helped move the industry closer to that original vision?
Yeah. Well, I think now that SEPAs have begun to embrace it, right? Like, as simple as something as I'm going to take my phone out. I think people actually like, given that taking your phone out and taking pictures is so normal these days.
Yeah.
But I think in a business presentation, that early in the presentation where I'm speaking with people that I may not know as much, where they're literally taking out their phone and holding it up and trying to take a picture, I think that's a powerful moment that we actually don't look at all that often. But they're taking a picture because that hit them in a different way, because they actually can see it. Why I like success to significance is that it's actually not all that unique, right? We've heard this before. But when you tie it specifically to what we're trying to do in the exit planning space for business owners, I think it hits home in a different way. So SEPAs today, I really think, are taking it with them and carrying it as like a badge of honor. Like, this is what I do, whether I'm a financial advisor, a estate planner, a value advisor, whatever it might be. I help business owners go from success to significance, and here's how and why.
What would you like to see SEPAs do maybe next year going forward to evolve it even further?
I'd like to see them embrace personal planning. I think it goes back to the earlier conversations that we were having on the show, where that's the last most undeveloped leg of the stool.
Yeah.
And I think we have a real opportunity to embrace it and develop it so it becomes more truly in alignment with the other two, so that we can really come to market together. I think if I could embrace it even further, my SEPA challenge would be, we talk a lot about the core team of exit planning being the CPA, the financial advisor, the value advisor, and the attorney. Those 4 advisors should be 5, and the 5th advisor should be a personal planner, somebody that helps an owner find purpose and understand the next act or phases of their life. And so I think if we can put that person on the team, if we can start talking about personal planning more often, and it's not a loose theme of our year or conference that's the most overlooked leg of the stool, it's just a part of who we are, that's when we know that we're actually winning.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with
Appreciate
me today.
it, yeah.
I think my last question for you today is going to be, what do people have to look forward to next year?
So we got a new show, like a new style of show,
We do.
and a new studio. So we're leaning hard next year into how to help your employees at your company think more in a value creation and in a value acceleration centric mindset. So I think we hear a lot about on the show and frankly in our profession about how do professional advisors surround the owner and how does the business owner change their mindset. But to really make, I think, a company significant, you have to have 12, 24, 48, 100 people at your company thinking like owners in a value acceleration way. So we're going to take a focus on how to help our employees grow in that fashion. And then me and Dad are living out maybe a childhood dream. We bought a warehouse where we could put a little bit of our car collection, my RV that we've talked a lot about, my motor coach, if you will, that we've talked a lot about on the show. And we've built a really cool podcast studio and lounge. We'll be inviting and entertaining some guests along the way. So season 4 should be another unique year, no doubt.
It's going to be a great one.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with me today and for going through all these clips.
Always love having you on the show. You should come back more often. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll see you debut a show in 2026.
Maybe.
Maybe. I like the cliffhanger there. Maybe. All right, Paige, I really appreciate you coming back on the show, and we'll see you guys all in the new year. So happy holidays. I hope you guys get some time to relax, and we'll see you in January 2026. Thanks.